Welcome to the specialty boat diving. The most inspiring reefs, exciting marine life, and optimum diving conditions usually are just beyond a comfortable swimming distance from shore. If you want to dive the best spots, the best way to get to them is usually on a dive boat. But boats are more than just transportation. They're a relaxing way to spend a day on the water and an excellent way to spend time socializing with old and new friends. Your boat diving trip begins long before you ever get on board. There are some very basic decisions that need to be made concerning the type of vacation you want to take. Different dive boats will offer various types of diving experiences. You will need to decide what it is you are most interested in doing. For example, are you a photographer? If so, there are many boats that cater to underwater photography. Some with computer labs and digital processing stations. You may want to do as much diving as your safe bottom time will allow. And that's great. But some people will want to combine diving with other activities. Once you decide on the type of diving you enjoy, you need to pick the type of boat that will supply it all. There are basically three categories of boats used for diving: liveaboards, day trip boats, and personal boats. Liveaboards are large vessels designed to stay at sea for extended periods of time. You will obviously live on board the boat during your trip. Liveaboards are the best possible way to go. If you want your vacation to be dive intensive with compressors on board and the boat traveling between great dive locations daily, you can choose to dive as often as you wish. Liveaboards come in every style, from lavish to simple but comfortable. It's up to you, based on your budget and your wants, to decide what kind of liveaboard suits your needs. The most commonly used dive boat is the day boat. Most charters are smaller than the average liveaboard, without all of the amenities of the larger vessels. The number of dives you make is limited to the number of cylinders brought on board by the operator. Day boats provide great flexibility on vacations. You choose the day and times you want to dive, and when you want to do other things. There are many sources available to help you in your selection of a dive boat and operator. In fact, your local SSI Dive Center has many trips already planned, and most likely one or two that fit your exact needs. Diving publications, internet websites, and travel agencies will often carry reviews of dive locations, boats, and operators. Your SSI dealer also has a comprehensive list and recommendations for you to use when planning your trip. Once you have chosen the type of diving you wish to do and the boat you want to do it from, there are some more specific questions that you will need to answer. Find out the total capacity of the boat, the average number of people on the boat, and the maximum capacity. What is the speed of the boat? And how long does it take on average to get to the dive sites? Does the boat have freshwater showers, shaded areas to relax? And are food and beverages offered during non-diving times? Does the boat have submersible platforms that ease the entry and exit process? Or a submerged safety stop bar for you to hold on to while completing your 3 to 5 minute safety stop? How many boat crew and dive guides are on board to assist you? are there enough to help divers get into and out of the water and supervise the rest of the group underwater? Also, ensure that the boat has the proper emergency equipment, such as fire extinguishers, oxygen and oxygen administration equipment, first aid kits for divers, and personal flotation devices. At minimum, a passenger orientation on boat safety, dive locations, missing buddy procedures, and emergency procedures should all be part of the crew's briefing. And finally, find out what the cost of the trip is and what it does and does not include. Be sure to weigh all considerations when comparing the prices of boats. Be sure that you have your SSI Open Water Diver and Boat Diving Certification in your SSI Total Dive Log. Boat operators will not allow you to dive without a certification card, and many are now using the dive log as proof of your diving ability in more advanced circumstances. When packing your personal items for your boat trip, be prepared for rainy or adverse conditions. You may not need this gear, but it's better to be safe than sorry. If you are subject to motion sickness, there are several commercial aids available to help you. Antacids, hard candy, Dramamine, scopolamine patches, and pressure bands are a few of the more common remedies. Divers generally gravitate to all the well-known diving brands. For this reason, it is wise to mark all of your equipment to avoid confusion and loss of your personally fitted equipment. On the day of your boat trip, it's wise to be at the dock at least a half hour before the scheduled departure. This will give you time to check in, stow your equipment where the crew directs you, and familiarize yourself with the craft. Depending on the crew's instructions, you may want to go ahead and assemble and store your equipment before the trip to the dive site. Be sure to check the air pressure in your cylinder before you leave the dock. It's as important to prepare yourself for diving as it is your equipment. Being in good shape before a trip allows you to dive more often and enjoy each dive more. Also, divers in good shape are better able to handle waves, currents, and their equipment, and to help other divers. No matter how physically fit you may be, it is important that you only dive to your comfort and certification level. If you have not been diving for a year or more, you should consider an SSI Scuba Skills Update. This fun program is designed to refresh your basic diving skills and raise your personal comfort level so you can maximize your diving enjoyment. It's helpful to know a few words of boat terminology so you will understand the directions of the crew. Aft, to the rear of the boat. Bow, forward end of a boat. Below, area beneath the deck. Bridge, where the boat is steered. Deck, the floor of the boat. Forward, to the front of the boat. Galley, the boat's kitchen. Head, the boat's toilet. Leeward, away from the wind. Port, left when facing the bow or forward. Here is a memory tip. Left and port both have 4 letters. Prop, the propeller that moves the boat. Rudder, underwater steering mechanism. Starboard, right when facing the bow or forward. stern, back end of the boat, windward, into the wind. Your SSI Boat Diving Manual has these listed for you to reference at any time. While on the way to the dive site, make a dive plan with your buddy. Discuss dive parameters and familiarize yourself with each other's total diving systems. An emergency is no time to find out how your buddy's BC inflates. The dive guides or dive masters on the boat will most likely conduct a pre-dive briefing to familiarize you with the conditions and the parameters of the dive. Listen carefully and follow the predetermined guidelines. Remember, when it comes to the dive professional's word is law. While getting ready, try to limit your space requirements and respect other people's space. Buddies should pace themselves to be ready to enter the water at the same time. Never enter the water until the captain or dive master has given you the okay. It's possible that you will be doing a drift dive, in which you will drift along with the current and the boat will pick you up at the end of the dive. When drift diving, the entire group will enter the water at the same time to prevent separation. Most boat diving will be done with the boat anchored at or near the dive site. In an anchor dive, you will generally be allowed to enter as buddy teams. When it's your turn to enter, either be ready to go or be prepared to move aside. Use the method of entry that allows the easiest and most comfortable transition from boat to water. The controlled seated entry is the best method from a low deck or platform. The most common entry is the step-in entry, also known as the giant stride. Make sure that the water is clear of divers before stepping in. When the water is rough, you must consider the boat's up and down movement when timing your step. Step off when the wave is at its lowest point. If the entry point is higher, a feet-first entry may be more appropriate. Be sure to keep your feet together to break your landing. With an entry, make sure that your BC is 1/2 to 3/4 full. Hold your mask and regulator second stage with your right hand. And if you're wearing a weight belt, place your left hand on your weight belt release mechanism to avoid accidentally being discharged. This way, you will be able to see, breathe, and float the second you enter the water. If the water is calm, another option is to inflate your BC and place the entire scuba unit in the water. Now you can slip your equipment on in the water. This method prevents the problem of tight spaces on the boat, but may be a problem in rough water. Avoid entering the water with cameras or other accessories in hand. Have someone hand you these after you enter. Once in the water, stay clear of the entry point and wait for your buddy before descending. On drift dives, divers enter the water at the same time, descend together, and stay together throughout the dive. Staying together is critical. Otherwise, divers spread out, making group control nearly impossible. If you are interested in diving on wrecks or in currents, ask your SSI dive professional about enrolling in the wreck diving and waves, tides, and current specialty programs. If you are anchor diving, be sure to conduct your dive into the current. This is in the same direction of the anchor. This will allow you to effortlessly swim back to the boat at the turnaround point of the dive. If you do not follow this advice and dive with the current, you will find yourself having to make a long swim back to the boat. As an added precaution and in case of being lost and on the surface, SSI recommends the SSI Nautilus Lifeline Emergency Radio that can be attached to your BC. Planning your dives is critical. Upon reaching your dive depth, it's smart to take a compass heading at the beginning of the dive. This will allow you to take a reciprocal heading at the turnaround point of your dive, making it easier to find your entry point and the boat at the end of the dive. It's important to plan your dive to have enough air to get you safely back to the boat with a minimum reserve. If you want more information on navigation, ask your SSI dive professional about the SSI Navigation Program. This course will teach you how to navigate underwater using several different techniques and pieces of equipment, including your compass. If you become disoriented, stay with your buddy and surface together. Should you see the boat, but it's too far to swim back, use your signaling device to alert the boat crew to your location. Many boats require that you carry a signaling device at all times while diving. Be sure that you have one and are familiar with its use before diving. When it's time to return to the boat, it's a good idea to use the anchor or downline to control your ascent. Ascend at an adequate speed and make a safety stop for at least 3 to 5 minutes at 5 meters or 15 feet. As you ascend, be sure to stay clear of the boat's hull and the dive platform or ladder. If the boat has dunking containers or freshwater rinsing stations, rinse off your equipment. The important thing is to keep your gear together and to make sure you have all the equipment you came with. If you are on a multiple cylinder dive day, go ahead and set up your equipment for the next dive. During surface interval, you will want to rest, eat and rehydrate. Drink plenty of water between dives. Do not drink alcohol and dive. Note: due to internal conduction and breathing compressed air, salt water and sun have a tendency to dehydrate divers and increase the risk of decompression sickness. Use surface interval time and your computer to calculate your no decompression limits for the next dive. The surface interval, or the end of a diving day, are a great time to log your dives. Your logged dives will count toward your next level of diving and are a great way to remember your trip. Boat diving is one of the most special diving experiences. Being able to reach out-of-the-way places will give you the opportunity to dive sites that few shore divers will ever see. And the camaraderie with your fellow divers will be like no other. With this basic training, you will open up a whole new world of diving adventure. On behalf of SSI, your SSI Dive Center, and your SSI Dive Professional, we welcome you to a new and exciting world of scuba diving.